All right, everybody, we're back. We got a great one today. We're with my man, Harrison. He's out in the southeastern Pennsylvania suburbs. If you're buying houses, my boy, if you're buying a lot of houses, you probably already bought a house from him. So it's going to be a super good pod. I think he did like $2 million in assignments last year with a small team. So we've got very, very similar energy. I can't wait to actually sit down with him and really get to know him. We don't know each other too well, so it's going to be a banger. Y'all are going to love it. As always, this episode is brought to you by Renovo Financial. So if you want a hard money loan, bro, Renovo Financial all day long. Everybody out here who's doing real numbers, pushing real numbers, they all use Renovo. And if you're a landlord, you want to refinance out of some of these houses, bro, into a DSCR loan, hit up Jeremy from Renovo. They're going to hit you at a good clip, and they're going to be so easy to work with. Bro, Jeremy's the man. He's probably the easiest guy to work with. I really, really mean it. And all my buddies use him, and all my buddies are making tons of bread. So you should too. But let's do it. Let's get into it. Happy hunting.
Actually, that's like the legit brand. It's hard to actually find them, but that's just dope.
Really?
It's good for chewing. It's hella good for your teeth.
Bro, thank you so much.
Yeah, of course, man. I know it's just a little gesture, but
dude, it doesn't matter. No one's ever brought me anything. You're the fucking man.
Yeah.
Yo, we good with okay. Heck yeah, dude.
So, since I'm kind of like, not hyper exposed on social media, a lot of people kind of doubt like my success in real estate.
Yo,
so
y'all.
I brought the P&L.
Stop
just to clarify. And so I've been saying that we did 2.4. We actually did 2.75.
Bro, you really bought your P&L?
Yeah, might as well. Yeah, and we can go over it and stuff too in this, and like maybe talk about it a little bit. But yeah, some people, like, oh, that guy's tall, weird looking. He ain't successful. It shows that if I can do it, then anyone can do it. It's kind of proof of concept, so to speak.
Bro.
So I figured I might as well go over it. I mean, you can see like a lot of the expenses and stuff too. I'm not going to go too deep into it.
No. We don't have to go too deep into your expenses. This is like,
you know what I'm saying?
Bro, trust me. My shit would look the same. So we don't have to talk about that.
But so I figured I'd bring the P&L just again to kind of officiate, my stance on wholesale real estate. And then
mad respect.
Yeah. So some people are like, I did this.
I did this. I make the same amount every single month. Man.
Let's see what the numbers are.
Bro, my man Harrison comes over, brings me a gift, and with his P&L. You're the real deal, Holyfield, 100%, man. 100%. All right, well, yeah, you've come more correct than anybody who's ever come on this.
Yep. So I guess I don't know how you want to start this, or like what you want to do or talk about.
Bro, it's already rolling. I don't know if you watched many of the episodes of this, but it's like dead ass. I just want to get to know you and get to know your biz and see what I can steal from you, whether that means like your parts of your mind that I could steal or parts of your business.
You don't want the mind, you want the business for sure. The mind part's kind of like the up in the air.
That's right. All my friends are crazy, so and I'm crazy, so this works. I think it takes a crazy dude to be good at this. So.
You can't be good in wholesale real estate if you are crazy. That's the only way you can actually perform well.
Dang right, my boy. I've been super looking forward to this. I saw a bunch of clips with you on Drew's pod, and Drew's a good buddy of mine.
Yeah, Drew's the man, for sure. That was my first ever podcast. This will be my second.
Oh, man, I'm honored. I knew you were on Drew's, so I knew you were the real deal Holyfield. I asked Mark Morey. Mark is like my best real estate friend.
Dude, I've done some deals with Mark now.
Yeah.
He just sent me over two different leads. He's like, dude, I got these one-off mailers out in the greater, because we're in the suburbs. He prefers, I think, like Jersey and like Philly market. And like Delco, of course, and Wilmington and all those other markets.
Just like all of us. Yeah.
Dude, he sent me out two. I locked both of them up, and both are like great deals. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Right after one after another. And he's like, dude, holy shit, like you're killing it. I'm like, yeah, keep sending them to me, man.
Yeah, let's go. Let's
keep them coming.
Let's run it up, bro. That's the best way to bond with people nowadays. I have you an adult male. Like,
gotta crush a deal with them.
Yeah, dude, that's how I'm bonding with you.
And I think that's where you come in handy too, and like where I can come in handy as well, is like other people who aren't familiar with this and maybe they find like a really good lead and they can't figure out how to close it, they can bring it to us and we can help them out and JV it, whatever they want.
Yeah, or even like boots out, like on the ground if I don't want to go all the way out, because I know you go super far into Chester County, super far into all these counties.
Yeah, when we were doing, so last year we were doing pretty much the entire state of Pennsylvania, so we were all over the place.
God bless you.
Our furthest, because I still stick to belly sales, our furthest driving point would be like 2 hours away.
Same. All right, I'm not 2 hours away, but I do like hour and a half, maybe hour 40.
But if someone had
Oh,
someone calls you and they're like, I need to sell my house now, I don't care about the price, you're probably going to drive 2 hours, I would.
Pops, of course.
Or probably just lock it up
you're
digital,
right,
whatever. Yeah, or you hit me up too and I can lock it up with you. Absolutely. But yeah, I mean, I've definitely found a lot of success with belly-to-belly sales, and we can kind of go into that and stuff, but I'll let you lead the charge here of all the questions and stuff, and you just let me know what you want to hear from me, and I'll do my best to relay that the best I can. So
heck yeah, man. Well, dude, bro, thank you so much for coming on. You're well spoken as heck, so I'm excited about this.
I appreciate it.
I think we have very similar energy in the fact that, correctly me if I'm wrong, but you've got a pretty small operation considering the volume of sales that you're doing.
Yeah. So the operations restarted because me and my former business partner have parted ways. I actually essentially am continuing on with the business, and he's probably going to do a different venture. Totally amicable. Like, he just wanted to do something else.
Yeah, that happens in this business. Like,
it happens in every business.
Bro, I think whenever somebody has a partner, I always say to myself, "Oh, it's cool. You go. I wonder when you all split." Everybody splits.
Everyone does, and dude, like when me and him are business partners, like we've been like generational friends. So, like our grandparents were friends, our parents were friends, and then me and him, like growing up, are greatest friends, still are great friends. And so we're like, yeah, this is going to be like the best business partner ever, and like it worked out really well for a long time. But I think it was just a general burnout of the business because, again, we were a small team. Of course. And you understand, I mean, you were just hustling when you came and met me at the door. You know?
Yeah, I got all the phones. You know how it goes, bro.
Yeah, dude, you got to have the trap phone. But essentially, we were able to do 2,700,000, I mean, you can convey that, 2,752,000.
Bro, this is such a slick move. I'm printing out my P&Ls.
Yeah, I mean, you just got to show people.
On the pods I go to, I send just shots from just my full CRM. I've never printed out and brought this. That's going to be my new move. This is Simba Gangsta.
Thanks to Kyle Carl Frank, who's not taking any more clients, by the way. He does not want me to shout him out at all, but he's great at bookkeeping and taxes. But again, we were able to do all these numbers last year with a 4-person team. And the one person was a lead manager, 2 salespeople, and then Nate rocking Dispositions, who was my former business partner. And we did it at like a 43% net revenue. So it was like pretty crazy, yeah. But now that being said, when you have a 4-man team like that and you're doing this much volume, I mean, we were doing like roughly like 10 to 12 transactions a month, sometimes more. It's hard, for sure.
That's so much work.
You're
working full time, like 100%. Full time.
Through weekends, every day. If someone calls me or a lead comes in on like PPC or anything like that, dude, I'm on it right away. If at dinner, I'm excusing myself. I don't care if I'm on an amazing date with my girlfriend. I'm going to step away for a little bit. And I think only so many people can take that for so long. I think it kind of gets old. Even if you start to make all the money, it definitely burn out. But with this model, you get to keep a lot more of what you kill. Because as you know, when you scale, there's all these costs that just start stacking up. And next thing you know, you're like, oh man, I just need to at least crush like one deal this month at $50K to pay for my marketing alone, So you don't get to keep it anymore, So it's different strokes for different folks. I can understand how some people like to have the small biz style. I'm there right now, not by choice, but just because of where I am. But my goal, again, I think, is to eventually get to a bigger operation where I don't have to work like I was.
Okay, fair. You want to scale out a little bit.
A little bit. But I think right now, and the model that I've got good at and what I'm doing right now is a one-size-fits-all. I mean, it's people, anyone can do it,
100%.
But
almost anybody can do it.
Almost anybody can.
Yeah.
Anyone can do it who's got massive balls, maybe stooping up to try.
There you go. Exactly.
And you might need a little bit of money to invest in marketing. But if you're able to save up some money, and again, whip those massive balls on the table on a day-to-day basis, you can do pretty well. And that's really what it takes. Also, the knowledge of real estate, and your network is your net worth too. You got a great network for sure, and I've been very blessed with my network as well, and that's how I've found a lot of success, I think, too. A lot of it's trial by fire, but a lot of it also is just pure luck and also knowing the right people at the right time,
Yes, very much. Who you know and who you're exposed to. It's a huge leg up, not only in things that you can utilize and like kind of idea share and methodology share, but like also like expectation wise, like kind of hold each other in the same, like kind of like to the same standard. I switched my network of people I was around, and my expectations for myself went like through the roof. So I get that for sure.
Yeah, it's funny because if you surround yourself by a bunch of hyper successful multimillionaires, you start to feel like a loser. And you're like, wow, I got to start doing more. But like, the old self is like, dude, where you're at right now is like where you want it to be. Like, what do you mean you want to do more?
Dude, the past year, that was my experience. Yeah. Oh shit. 2 years ago, I would have tried to be like this. Right now, like bro, I make the least amount of money, and all my boys right now, so I better find
That's the right network you want to be in, because if you're surrounded by people who are performing under you, you'll start to get and if you feel good about yourself, and if you always want to feel good about yourself. If you feel too good, you get comfortable, which is fine for some people, but for me, what my idea of success is, that's going to kill it. I'm going to start losing my determination. I'm not going to be able to have the same outlet to maybe sell properties to, or maybe do joint venture agreements with, or just the general random question about marketing. Sometimes we throw out to random people like, hey, is this a good mailing company? Should I use them? Or is this a good PPC company or whatever? They're not going to be there to answer those questions. And that's super important for sure. Because you can pay a coach, but it's nice to have someone on your network you can just shoot a one-off text message, to, and have them answer your question.
It's powerful because, like, especially in the same market, like, they're marketing in the same area, like Pops in this area, what is working. And we're in the Northeast, so doing things in the Northeast. All these gurus are on the West Coast. It's not the same. Or like they're down in Florida. It's not the same market, not the same type of person.
Definitely not in PA now, the shit that just got passed. So
exactly.
Have you seen them pull out? I've witnessed it. A lot of the bigger companies that are nationwide aren't even marketing in Pennsylvania anymore.
So I haven't seen that. I don't have my finger on the pulse with all the things that are going on nationally. All I'm paying attention to is the guys that are in my area.
Yep.
And none of them are going anywhere because this is where they are.
This is where they are.
Yeah.
And I like that. But so the way you can tell is a lot of these big national companies solely do PPC. And so if you're just typing in like sell my house fast, pick one of those companies that pops up and then follow them. Then just Google the name and see where they're from. See what area they're actually coming out of. Sometimes you'll see like North Carolina or like some random place. And they have like 500 Google reviews. You're like, damn.
That's a shark.
They're doing numbers. They're doing volumes for sure. And like the Google reviews isn't always a determination of if you're doing numbers or not, but it does give you an idea if they are.
Dude, for sure, it gives you a good idea.
I've busted my ass for 77 Google reviews at this point, like honest reviews, and like I'm still gonna keep it going. But like that is one of the best things I think I've ever done.
That's smart.
Google reviews.
I got 5. I'm new being mainly online business, so I'm trying to stack them up, but it's new for me.
Yeah, well, I mean, later on I could give you some tips and stuff about how I've been able to essentially push for clients to leave reviews.
Yes.
Actually, I'll do it right now. I'll drop it right now. So
tell them.
The best way to do it and to pitch it, so whenever I've done acquisitions, I've always kind of put myself in the position of like an employee. I've never been like the decision maker or the guy calling the shots. I've been kind of deferring that to someone else, an imaginary person called my boss, who doesn't necessarily exist, right?
Oh, all right. So
but
when I have a boss,
I have a boss. Yeah,
okay,
I have a boss. I'm showing up to make sure that the property's a good fit for my boss, and that we're a good fit for them, and that they want to do business. And I get the offer from my boss, present it to the buyer. They say the seller. They say it's absolutely atrocious. Where'd you come up with that number? Don't shoot me. It's not my number. It's my boss. But you like me, so let me try to work this out for you. And so if you're the guy coming up with a number, and you come up with that number, your rapport is gone. They're gonna hate you. But if someone else is coming up with that number, and you're the guy just presenting the number, then you're not the bad guy. You're the guy, like Dr. Phil. You're working between one party trying to make it work with another.
Yes.
And you're just trying to like get things to align where you can do business.
Okay.
And so that's why I've had a lot of success. But teetering off of that with the reviews, after closing, I'm like, hey, listen, Linda, I'm very happy we got this property closed for you. I know it's exactly what you wanted, and you had a great experience. It looks really good in the eyes of the company if you would just leave a review, maybe mentioning my name and, how I was. And also, Linda, I do get a small bonus from my boss. So if you don't mind leaving a review for me, you would do me a huge solid. And a lot of times you'll have old people or anyone who isn't like technologically savvy making a Google account to write your reviews. So I have a bunch of reviews from people who have left no reviews. Those are the old people who never had a Gmail account. And so that's how I found a lot of success in getting reviews. If you pitch it in a way where it does you such a service that they can actually spend maybe 12 minutes to just leave you a review, they will. But if you're like, hey, I know this is great. Would you mind just leaving a review? I'll talk to you never again. It's a whole different concept.
Okay.
And so with that, I found the ability to leave a lot of reviews and get a lot of reviews, and that's one of the strengths I think I've brought to the table.
I'll tell you what, I dig that. That's super smooth, and you can tell that like Bill's not even thinking about it when you're saying it. You've probably said it a million times.
Muscle memory at this point, dude. I'm a wordsmith, a word wizard, whatever you want to call it. At this point, just vomits out of my mouth.
Right. There we go.
It's cool, dude. The acquisitions, again, it's kind of like you're not the nurse, you're the doctor. You're like the main part of this whole operation.
Yes.
Especially when it comes to wholesale, and so it comes with like a badge of honor. I feel.
For sure.
And I like to flex it. I think it's cool for sure. To be a successful acquisitions person is the shit
Bro, it's fucking badass.
It's badass.
It's fucking badass. I feel the exact same way.
It is a skill, quite literally. Like, you could take everything away from me, all the success, previous history, as long as I still have my brain and my understanding of acquisitions and a small marketing ad spend, I will never be poor.
And you've got enough track record. You don't even need money. You could get somebody to give you the money.
100%, yeah, absolutely. I show them the P&L.
Yeah, yeah. There we go. You got the P&L, my boy.
But
there we go.
I think a lot of too, and again, my success has been solely my own, and it never really is. Success is never a road travel with one person. It's always multiple people. It's a caravan, so to speak. And the reason I was able to perform so well in acquisitions is because I could know that I would send that lead back to Dispositions, and they would
get rid of that.
Get it done every time. So listen, I mean, for me, it was like, lock it up. It's a good deal. On to the next one. And so, like, if you're a one-man band, it's a little bit hard because you got to run the disposition and all that stuff. So if you have a person in a system actually to support a good acquisitions person, they can fly. You know, and it's great. And I think it's super key. And again, I've operated on my own. I've operated with people, and then I've operated with a business partner. And with my previous partner, we killed it for sure. We made a great team. So it's definitely key for sure.
And so it's you and one other guy that was doing sales, and one dispo guy.
Yep.
Right. Y'all did that. Each sales guy did over $1 million sales.
So I did 1.6.
And your other dude still did a little bit over $1 million. Sure. Who the hell's your other guy? Your other guy's
a lot of this was from flips and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So we really did like 2.4 that year. But something to note is that you always have the toss over from the next year. Closings happening from December.
That's a good point.
Whatever else.
Yes,
and so a lot of people count that. I didn't used to count it, but now looking at the P&L, I guess I have their choice to count it because technically that's money I made this year and I'm paying taxes on it. So
no, but in your own business processes, you know, like that was, I got paid right there, but that work was not. Yes.
Exactly. So I think in the great scheme of things, though, between two salespeople to do anywhere, a salesperson doing $1 million a year is kind of a rarity. You know, it's hard to do.
How did you find this guy, bro?
Dude, he was a good friend of Nate, my former business partner. He was in the military, incredibly smart and intelligent, incredibly hardworking. He was a bartender someplace out west, and came back to PA to essentially just get back to the roots, so to speak.
Yes.
And Nate just randomly hit him up, and we hired him on the spot. Did not do any due diligence at all.
Don't do it like that necessarily, or maybe
it worked out.
It worked out really well.
But he was again very highly intelligent, very motivated, great leader, and he picked up pretty quick. He copied my process, which I think is a phenomenal process, and we'll go deep into this process.
Yeah,
I want other people to know it.
Thank you.
Again, I think it's important that if you find success, you bring others up with you. And if you find success and you don't bring others up with you, or even successful, I mean, that's
you're corny.
Yeah, that sounds kind of stupid. But that being said, he joined the company, started off doing like lead management work, and we quickly realized, dude, like, just take that deal. Like, you've already talked to him, like, just take the deal.
Yeah, you should be. It's better at this point. Your rapport so good.
I think his second deal was like $100,000 spread. Or third, yeah. So out in the greater Philadelphia area, the spreads for us, I think we're averaging like 30K on assignments.
Are you?
Yeah, we were like upset when we like a 30K. I was like, oh, it's only 30K. Fuck that. Like, I hate that. But like for most people, that's phenomenal.
No, that's really, really good.
Yeah.
I started out, and for years I was just in Philly County. That was my
tough.
I'm no longer in Philly County. After this past quarter was my last quarter. I'm never going to spend another dollar in there. I get so many referrals, so like it'll be impossible to never do any deals out here. But like, done a good assignment in Philly County for most people that are even like
10, 15K.
15K, yeah. I'm talking about for people that are high performers outside of Philly County. Mm-hmm. Philly County, you're looking at 15K. It's for the same amount of work. Silly, done. I moved to the suburbs. Life is so easy. Mm-hmm. So easy.
The burbs are where it's at, man. And now something to know too, but Philly, there's a lot of, obviously, a lot of distress. So a lot of people are trying to sell their home. So there's a lot of volume you can do in Philly, but like on a per deal basis, it's definitely going to be less. And you could build a business model off of $10,000 assignments if you wanted. Know that the assignments are in Pennsylvania are gone, and you got to double close and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Right. But
come on, well, I'll fuck with you.
Don't tell anyone. I'm double closing, Nick. I swear.
Yeah. Me too. I'm double closing on everything.
So that being said, you can build a good business, and there's people who wholesale, and like we're fortunate because we're in Pennsylvania, which is like there's a lot of value out here.
Yeah.
And there's also still like a lot of distress at the same time. But if you're like in a market like, California, where it's like those houses are so incredibly expensive and there's not a lot of, I guess you could say, distress for actual homeowners there, it's hard to wholesale there. But like in Pennsylvania, I think it's like the perfect market, honestly. And I don't see myself ever leaving the state. I see myself maybe at some point maxing it out. But, you can definitely still do very well with $10,000, $15,000 assignments. And when I was starting out, dude, that was life-changing money.
Yeah.
That was like 1/3 of what I would make a year at my old job.
No. Before I got even 10 grand a month, I went into wholesaling. I was like, if I can make 10 grand a month, I'd be a happy boy.
Right?
And then, obviously your mind changes and you get bigger goals.
You start talking to other people.
Yes.
And they're like, oh, you make 10 grand a month?
Damn, you was work.
Are you all right? Can you afford your car? Like, things are tough, man. You can buy groceries. But again, with the, scaling of a business and doing more than 10 grand a month comes cost and overhead.
Yes.
And so if you're starting out, one of my tips would be, first, maybe try to use some applications like Drew's application, Revamp 365. Great way to start. I highly recommend that. Second, that would be like driving for dollars. That's how I got started.
Okay.
And you could definitely crush some pretty fat spreads off of that. You got to hustle though. You're going to be calling some people who don't want to talk to you.
Yeah, you got to put that sweat equity in for sure.
They're not inbound leads at all.
No.
When you make that switch to inbound leads, that's when your life changes. Everything's so much better.
Oh my gosh. It's literally, for me, it felt like I was literally putting gasoline in my business. It blew up my whole world. I really, really did.
Dude, when we started out, we were doing mass text and cold call. We went from driving for dollars. I had a Mercury Grand Marquis. It was a 2008 Mercury Grand Marquis.
Yeah, you did.
That
Okay.
absolute swag wagon, and just driving around in that thing in like the worst parts of like Pennsylvania all the time, just looking for any type of distress I would find, and almost getting in an accident, like trying to pinpoint it on the deal machine.
Yeah, put it in your deal machine. I was
calling
going
them,
to say.
tracing them while I'm driving, But that does work. You can't scale it. It's a great place to get started. So if you're in a situation where you need quick money, good place to start. And then you can also, like I said, use apps like Drew's Revamp or anything else that maybe do something similar. I don't know if there is, but that would be like my recommendation to get started. If you have money, mail probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've never done the mail successfully. I went one little venture and I didn't do well.
It's a tough one, and it's not sexy at all because you're sending postcards. And 90% of the leads that call you are pissed that they got a mailer. I've never seen people so upset about something so basic.
They were mad at me, bro. You're a stalker. Yeah. Why are you sending me something with a photo of my house? This and that, blah, blah, blah. I tried putting a picture of me and my family. Like, fuck your family, blah, blah, blah.
I was going to do that. So actually, my new guy, Tristan, who's, again, he's actually doing very well. I think he's going to knock on wood. That's not even knock on wood. Is going to knock up his first agreement, hopefully tomorrow, in Pottstown, and he started like a month ago, so he's starting to get that role, the momentum, so to speak. But I don't know where I was going with that, but like essentially, with him and answering the mailers and stuff like that, he answers a call and they're just already mad at him.
Yeah.
And we were gonna use like his son and dress up as like Bob the Builder, and like my dad wants to buy your house. I thought that'd be a good one, but. Just the cheaper the postcard, the better, man. If someone is distressed, they're going to look at that postcard that says that you want to buy their house.
They're just going to call it.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if it's pretty or not. And so you look at it from like a cost per mailer standpoint would probably be the best way to look at it.
Okay. And how many? Beatty was on here. He talked all about the mail.
Yeah, Beatty's
the mailman.
Beatty's legit though.
Yeah, he's my boy.
Legit for sure. I remember going to a public speaking thing and he was there speaking. It was like maybe 4 years ago.
He's very smart. Cerebral, is that the right word? Like he's very high IQ, thinks about things real good.
Yeah, I'm not high IQ, which is I think
you're a sales guy.
I'm a sales guy.
Yeah,
exactly.
You smell like a sales guy. Yep. You look like a sales guy.
Yep, exactly. I'll sit in that house and be a big dumb idiot in front of them, and they're gonna love me. So that's how it works. But
there we go.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of marketing and stuff, though.
What are y'all doing for marketing?
Yeah, it's a great question. So when we were hyper successful, we were doing very well as a 4-man team. We were $20,000 a month in PPC, $20,000 a month in mail, and then I think it was probably another $5,000 in cold callers. But primarily it was mail and PPC.
All right.
Yeah. When we first started, we were mass text and cold call, and driving for dollars before that. But when mass text kind of took an L and they started like increasing like the regulations and stuff like that on the text you can send and the calls you could make, that kind of died out pretty quick.
No, I get that.
So,
and it's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work.
You got to do a lot of leads in order to get it.
Yeah, you gotta almost have to have a lead manager for that if you want to be any type of success, because there's so many leads that just like I'll take 400,000 as is cash tomorrow, and you're like, and so like of course the VA blocks it, sends it over to us because they think it's a deal.
It's like,
they don't know anything.
Thanks, pops. And no matter how many times you tell them, don't send me something like that, or like all the good deals. They want to sell their house in 6 months, so it's like a 6-month follow-up. And you need a big team to do all that follow-up. At least for me, the money's
in the follow-up, though, man, for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
The money's in the follow-up.
That's very true.
I cannot tell you. I think so. This year I've already done Well, I've done like 4 deals already, and that was like I wasn't even like working.
This year.
Yeah, because
The restructuring, you're trying to figure out what...
Yeah, January 1st was like the end of the business partnership. And so like I restructured everything, hired new people, all of that. And literally just sitting down, I just had mailers like call in, like old mailers that came in. I had people that I talked to from like a year ago that I hadn't talked to in maybe 6 months just call me because they wanted to sell now.
That's funny.
You know? And so that's where like, again, if you build hyper good rapport with someone and are on top of your follow-ups, there's really no lead that you're missing as long as you're calling them. And so it's like that golden net that catches these leads and makes all this money for you. You got to maintain that net. You don't want to ever have anything fall through because sometimes you will inadvertently. You'll have things fall through, or someone will reach them at a different time and maybe they lost your number and you didn't follow up with them, and then they'll sell the house to them. And that does happen. But again, you want to
minimize that as much as you can.
The follow-up is key for sure. And it's also a great way to build rapport as well. You know, when you have follow-up and constant follow-up, whether you like it or not, you're building rapport with that seller. Because this guy's like, man, this guy, Harrison, out of wherever the hell he's from, just calls me at least once every 2 weeks to ask me about my house and ends up talking to me for 20 minutes for some reason.
Yeah, he's going to rock with you.
Exactly. When he goes to sell, he's going to call me, for sure.
For sure.
And at least he'll give me the first, maybe unfortunately I'll be the first guy to make an offer and bring him to reality, and then he'll hate me.
Yeah, but then he's still going to give you last look, too, after he takes your offer and shops it.
Yeah, and so we'll go over some of my techniques and stuff to like outpace like bidding wars and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I have a lot of like really good techniques and stuff like that, but I don't know if there's anything else you want me to air on before I start getting into some of the nitty-gritty dive.
Get into the stuff, bro.
All right, so we'll start. I mean, obviously me finding my success in the acquisitions role, I've built a lot of techniques in my process to really kind of outpace my competition. Because if you look at wholesale real estate, it's a great business model.
Yeah.
But it's a business model that a lot of other people are in. So you got to think, how can I stand out? How can I outpace the competition? What makes me different? Why would they take my offer over someone else? One, obviously, being rapport. That's obviously the best. 2, being reputation. And then 3, the follow-up. Those 3 things will outpace the majority of other people who are in this industry. And so I've really kind of built a brand, or tried to build a brand to show that we are a legitimate company, 1. 2, the rapport with me, obviously I'm also selling myself. You know?
Yes, of course.
So that's huge. And then 3, like I said, the follow-up, like not missing opportunities and not letting things go. Because again, if you have a good conversation with someone, but they're not ready to sell, so they want to sell in 6 months, 6 months, it's still a deal. I'll make 50 grand in 6 months.
Yeah,
you know?
You're beating me. I'll tell you what, you're beating me. I'm more of a low-hanging fruit guy because I've got a smaller team, and like sometimes I'll get the long follow-up ones, but it's not super often. So you're beating me on there. I'll give it to you.
You could probably finagle stuff with like your CRM and cadences and stuff, but we won't go too deep in that. But the process too is huge, because a lot of these larger companies, they'll have leads come in and then they'll speak to like a lead manager to get vetted.
And bro, that first person you speak to is going to be some VA. That's crazy. What a bad.
Not even a VA, but it may be a guy who's an American. He might actually be in the office, but at the same time, he's being told by whoever's in charge that he's not supposed to spend too much time on the phone with them, and he's not supposed to build too much rapport. He wants to lead the rapport for the sales rep. But the issue that I have with that is that initial conversation is not only important, but it's a great way for the sales rep, because they're going to ask him a bunch of questions, and the sales rep's going to get it and ask him a bunch of questions, the same questions more often than not, and that just kind of takes away from the process, so to speak.
Yeah.
So I prefer, if the inbound leads go right to a sales rep like me, acquisitions guy, you spend 45 minutes on the phone with them, talking about whatever they want. Obviously you stick to some parts of the script where you get their motivation, potential objections, and then, obviously get some idea of like what their timeline is and the conditions of the property and stuff like that. But that 45 minutes is crucial. Not a lot of people like to spend 45 minutes on the phone with anyone.
No, they're spending 45 minutes with you on the phone.
That's the goal.
They're very invested.
You're trying to shoot for as much time on that initial phone call with that person as you can. I don't care if you're talking about football, cats, dogs, whatever it is. You just try to keep them talking, keep them liking you, and then you schedule an in-person appointment. And at that in-person appointment, you're there for like an hour. You walk right on in. You ask them almost the same questions. You sit down on their couch with them. They have a cat, a dog, whatever. If that dog's coming out, you pet that stinky dog, man. You pet that stinky dog, that hairy cat. The hair's going everywhere, all that stuff. And you just sit there and you show this person that you're a real human being, and they'll be comfortable with you. You're comfortable in their house. You do the normal walkthrough stuff. You take your photos, and then unlike most people, I make the offer the next day.
Oh,
I don't make it in person. I don't make it in the house. And I tell you why, because I'm using my boss as the...
Yeah, there's a reason. You got to show this stuff to your boss.
I got to show my stuff to this boss, who is going to obviously make you an offer. But I do want you to know that even if we come in at an offer that Doesn't sound good to you. I'll do whatever I can to try and make this work for you. It's me and you against the world. That's what you want to try to convey. So you want to be, you want to be like really, really buddy with them. And you know, a lot of people say like time kills all deals. I don't think it kills a deal if you're building rapport with this person, and if you're essentially building up all this whole thing is just amounting to when you finally make that offer, and it sounds that much better because it's coming from you.
And they have so much time invested in you, like
100%.
They want you to win. They
don't
want
want
it to
again.
be.
They don't want to do it again.
No, exactly. Yes, exactly.
Like, shit, if I got to do this every time I have to sell my house, I have to talk to a guy for 45 minutes and then have him at my house for an hour and then, you know, be his best friend now? Like, what's going on? This is crazy. And so that's where I found a lot of success is I think, again, the lead comes in, 45 minutes on the phone with the acquisitions rep. That same acquisitions rep schedules an appointment as soon as they can get out there, hour in the house, if not more, offer the next day. Again, leveraging someone else as essentially the decision maker. They are the decision maker, and they're not.
And that's doing well for you, obviously. Pretending like you're not the actual decision maker.
Yep, I'm not. Yeah, so that process is giving me a lot of success, and Cole was using the same process and doing very well off of it as well.
Okay.
You know, obviously there's definitely some strengths you got to have. You got to be personal. You got to be able to have the balls to go to some random person's house.
Yeah.
Give them an offer. You know,
you got to be that guy, bro.
You got to pursue it for sure, and you got to keep your foot on the gas too. If they're like, well, you know, like what you do like next week? Well, hey, you know, listen, Tim, is there a reason you can't do this week? Like, why not? You know, you said you want to sell this house as soon as possible. Why don't you want to get me out there? Is there something that's maybe wrong with the property, or do you want to clean something up? And if you figure out that they don't want you over at the house because it's a mess, you know, you try to shoot your professionals. And you know, Tim, look us up online. You know, you can see all our reviews on Google. Yeah. We're a legitimate company. I'm a professional. I'm not here to worry about the stuff you have in your home, your clutter, whatever. I'm here to look at the big issues with the property and also figure out even deeper questions about what you really need, and hopefully just show that we're the right fit for you. And if we're not, again, we'll part ways as friends. No worries. And like a lot of that will go really far for sure.
Okay.
But if they have an objection to the appointment, treat it like they have an objection to selling. Like, why not? And then try to work it, you know, go 3 deep, figure out what's going on, you know, figure out what their concerns are. And I've had people come in who are frantic, and the reason they want to work with a wholesaler versus a realtor is because they don't want to have anyone else in their house, and they just want it done easy, quick, and clean because they're embarrassed, you know?
Yeah.
So you have to try to go around that embarrassment and make them trust you enough over that 45-minute phone call to get that appointment.
And so that they're not embarrassed.
Yeah. They're like, well, can't you just make me an offer, you know, over the phone? Well, listen, there's companies who can make you an offer over the phone, and not to knock their process or anything like that, but would you buy a property without seeing it? You know, and then you hit them with that. They're like, well, fuck no, I wouldn't buy a house without seeing that. That'd be ridiculous. Yeah. Exactly. So how do you know, even if you took photos, I mean, how do you really think that someone can stand behind their offer if they're a virtual company? You know,
which is very true, and it's very real. And if you get in with the truth, they know it's true.
100%. I've demolished so many competitors that were virtual companies with belly. Yeah. I honestly, I understand the model of virtual. It's cheaper leads. It's easier to scale, but I do believe that the brick and mortar belly-to-belly wholesale company is here to stay.
Bro, they're not beating you, and they're belly-to-belly, and that's how I feel like.
100%.
Bro, if you get me in the room with somebody, my realness is so palpable.
Absolutely.
Like, you're not getting
if a mustache like that, I'd sell you my house.
Not facts, bro. No, I'm getting driven to the appointment. I'm popping out from the back seat.
Oh, you really?
Yeah, half the time I got my kid with me.
You're a baller.
No, you know what I'm saying? I don't got to work polo on. I'm so myself.
Yep.
My realness is palpable. Yep. So you know what I'm saying is the truth.
Yeah, I went to an appointment today. That's why I'm wearing the Pikeland outfit. That's for sure.
Yeah, there we go.
But another thing too that sets yourself apart, like, so you have a brand. Like you are who you are. My brand is, I guess, really Pikeland, and I'm again.
This is the new brand because they used to say H on it. That's a new brand, right?
Yeah. Well, Pikeland, I guess, you know, right? No, so it's the same company. We're kept the same. I kept the company name and everything like that. And for a couple of reasons. One's obviously the reviews and the websites and all that other stuff that we spent all this time and money making. But second to that too, we also have a good reputation, especially locally. So there's a lot of people. I
would assume.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who bring us referrals. It's hard in wholesale to really get repeat business because not a lot of people sell multiple properties or they sell one and then they come back for another. That has happened a couple times, but it's not very often.
Okay.
But again, the brand is huge because when someone's just like if you want to find a good restaurant, Nick, you're going to scroll throughout Google and you're going to look at all these different reviews and you're like, oh man, that one's only got 4.5 stars. But this one's got 5 stars.
And so this one.
And you're going to that one, exactly. Or that one's got more reviews than the other. And it's just like basic human psychology. You want to make sure the first person you work with is going to be the best.
Yeah.
And so that's like the importance of the brand. And I've spent a lot of time working on that. And so when I go to a seller appointment, they see me looking like a goofball in white pants, and a golf polo or whatever that's, marked up as Pikeland. I'm pulling up in a blue BMW and a white interior, so it kind of matches like what I'm wearing.
Yeah, bro. They love it. This guy's here for business. He's 100%. Going on 1 million appointments a day. He's serious. Yeah.
It's my boss's car, though.
Yes. You're an animal.
But it's I'm telling you, if you start bringing it up, and I use boss because it's more familiar for most people, but you could say like partners, that partners.
Nah, say boss. If you say it, that's what they should say.
Yeah,
I really need that. No. If it works for you, it should work for them.
For sure, absolutely. And I think part of it's like familiar because like most people have a boss. They're like,
yes,
yeah, my boss.
I get that. He's an asshole.
Yeah, my boss is an asshole. Yeah, exactly. So they understand they can relate to that, and so when you have that third party decision maker, you're never to be blamed. They might not like your offer, but
they still like you.
Exactly.
Yeah, when they don't like my offer, I kind of still think they like me.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah, they never angry.
And it's not to say that doesn't work or anything, but I just feel like if it takes even an ounce of rapport away from me, then it's probably not going to, I'm probably going to try to avoid it in the process of what I do. The whole thing is like, it's psychological warfare. I mean, that's what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, you're trying to cater to people who are in a situation where they need to sell their home fast, and they need to find someone who's going to do it and they can trust that it's going to get done.
Yes.
So not only are you coming in being hyper confident, obviously showing professionalism, but you also have a brand backing you. And so a lot of people, when you think about it, they're not going to look into who is Harrison Hall. They're going to look into who is Pikeland Property Group.
Yes.
And look deeper into the company, not me. And I like that.
I think that.
Not that I have any skeletons in the closet.
No. I take the opposite approach, so I really, really like that. Mm-hmm. If you look up Nick Buys Houses, I have so much shit all over the internet,
right.
Like it's right there. You see who I am.
You're probably the king of SEO at this point, dude.
You know what? I'm working on it. I'm working on being the king of SEO.
Any SEO company would work with you in a moment if they just even got a touch of your Instagram or anything else, YouTube, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Because that's what they want. That's what they're going to use and leverage to try to.
It would be very easy for them. They would do well.
I should be going after that deep, man, because that's huge. I know you had a guy.
I'm just starting to get into it. I didn't know before. So now, I changed my circle, and everyone's helping me along, get better and better. So I'm just getting into that a little bit.
And I've never been doing that. I've always been sticking to PPC and mail and other. I tried TV, that didn't work out too well. I was doing TV ads for 5 months, I think, out in the Lancaster market and that surrounding area, and I probably got 2 deals off of it and spent it was $50-something thousand and didn't make any of that money back.
Whoa.
Yeah, I think we got 120K spread off it, so I really lost 30. That's the cost of doing business.
That's what marketing is, though. Drew Parnish once told me, you don't even sweat it. What marketing really is, it's just testing, bro. That's all it is. That's what you're doing. It's don't sweat it.
Drew's also a genius too. You get that guy talking, and you're like, wow, this guy's not only is he hyper intelligent, but he's super. It's he's almost I guess obsessive would be the word. He just.
Oh, for sure.
If he thinks about it, he gets it done. And that's what I really admire about him for sure.
In a funky way, but he'll get it done.
He'll get it done for sure. Yeah, it's pretty cool. He was doing his own mail and stuff. He said there's a video I saw.
He had his own
printer and stuff. I'm like, dude, that's wild.
Freak, I love it.
To go through that is so funny. But, again, he's...
a special person.
Yeah, for sure. Not everyone's a Drew Farnese.
No, I'm not. I'm a sales guy.
I'm a sales guy, too.
I'm a sales guy, so I try to stay in my lane.
Yeah, and I agree. And there's... Again, I don't think there's a more important role to be in. When it comes to wholesale, I think we're number one. Obviously, to that being maybe a CEO or something else, but
brings in the money.
Whoever brings in the money runs the business. Who brings in the clients runs the business. That is the business for sure. So that's wholesale at a heartbeat. You got the marketing, you got acquisitions, you have dispositions, and everything else of that is just, I guess, comes with scaling.
Yeah,
those three things have to be in the business, regardless of whatever you do.
And so, what are you doing now? Do you just hire a different dispositions guy?
So I'm actually, sounds crazy, I'm going to be doing dispositions myself.
Pops, that's not crazy at all.
Yeah. So the reason I'm doing that is because I want to spend a lot of my time training my guys to even be 70% of what I could do. And if they follow my process, similar to Cole, they should be. Yeah, exactly. And if I'm able to do that and then do dispositions on the side just to make sure those deals are going to closing, then eventually I'll hire a dispo person. I'll probably hop right back in acquisitions. I do love acquisitions.
Dude, it's so addicting. There's nothing like getting that
that signature. Oh my God.
It's just such a rush.
Yeah. Yeah, that ride home, listen to loud music. Those are just
hit up the boys and we're on the field.
Yeah. It is a blast. And seeing someone else do it for the first time too, it makes me so happy. Like seeing like a sales guy crush his first day. I was like, holy shit, I just did it. Like, yes, you did.
Yes, you did.
Yes, you did. And you did everything right. Or you could be like, maybe you did some things wrong. But at some point in time, like they still got that agreement signed. You obviously have to give them props.
Bro, of course. I had my first real taste of that this past month.
Yeah.
So I hired a sales guy.
Yeah.
We had 2 deals last month. And I'll tell you what, it was cool because like it changed his life.
Yeah, for sure.
Like he's gonna make a lot of money, bro.
Yeah, for sure.
He's gonna make 6 figures for the first time that he's
It's amazing.
Like as long as he doesn't quit, which I don't think he will because it's the most money he's ever made.
Yeah, exactly.
And it just like he's been following me around a little bit, just watching him just do exactly what I did.
Yep.
Bro, what the heck? So it's very like I'm so jacked up for this kid. Like,
yeah, it's awesome.
My proof of concept for him is through the roof. I'm in love.
It's. I mean, again, it's part of being successful is bringing up people around you.
Yeah.
And again, I think nothing would make me happier than to have a company full of people who are happy to work with me, but also like pursuing their own dreams in one way or another. Maybe that's income. Maybe that's just also having the ability to have a job that gives them the proper benefits. Whatever it is. Maybe they actually truly like what they do, which I hope they do. Maybe they like helping people, distressed sellers around, the PA area. All those things. Like nothing would make me happier than have a whole entire company full of people who are elated to work for me and work with me. So
those are great goals to have.
For sure. There's a saying, the world gets out of the way for a man who knows what he wants.
Oh.
And I know what I want, and so I'm going to go right to the top, man, for sure.
Bro, I'm
gonna bring those who are with me up to the top, and people in my network. I hope I make them lots of money. People who hate me, they can watch and despise me. That's fine.
If they're mad, make them madder.
Yeah, exactly.
For sure.
Exactly. And that's something you kind of find when you find success too, because I'm sure you probably had lots of people like, oh man, I can't stand Nick. He's crushing all these deals. He's doing so well.
Scoop all the robe on it.
So just like, why am I not doing this well? Why am I not doing deals or whatever? And like that's not the proper mindset to have at all.
No.
That's Drew coined it as a not a minimalistic
scarcity mindset.
Scarcity mindset, exactly. Yeah.
Silly stuff, bro.
Yeah, it's just not the right way to think, dude.
No.
If I see other people crushing deals, the first thing I would say is congratulations, but tell me what your secret is, please.
That's
Yeah.
that's literally what my podcast is. Like, give me your sauce, bro.
Yeah, and this is huge because like you're able to help other people, younger guys who want to get into the world that we're in right now, and it's not easy, but it's doable. It's doable and it's repeatable for sure.
Heck yeah.
Just if you're the Greater Philadelphia area, you're going to probably lose a couple deals to me. So I just that's it.
But the beauty of that is there are so many big deals.
Oh, yeah.
There's so many deals, bro.
Yeah.
Before I started doing bigger deals, like I think this happens to a lot of people, especially in the Philly market, that you get so used to doing smaller deals or you don't have the budget for big marketing. So you think that like, oh, cool, I should be making a $5,000 deal or a $10,000 deal. And I switch up my network and then all my boys, their average fee is $25,000, $30,000. And they're doing like, some of them, maybe they're only doing 20 deals a month. Some of them are doing more than 30 a month, like more than one a day.
Shit, if they're doing 20 deals a month, they're doing very well. That's for sure. That's a lot of deals. Sure. Yeah.
Bro, are you kidding me? Phil Vaughn, Justin Johnson, like all those guys are in the 20. Santini's doing a deal a day. George Beatty's doing a deal a day. Like I got all these boys I talk to regularly that are doing all these deals.
Santini's wild too because he's flipping on top of that.
He flips, dude,
like 40% of his inventory.
I flipped the house with Santini relatively recently. I'm out here flipping. Like I'll do something with if I got a house that I can't make enough wholesale 100%. At this point. It's forgot Santini. Let's flip this dang house. It's like whatever. Like because I'm trying to maximize on my leads, and I don't personally want to do a bunch of deals. I really don't. I want to have more of a simple, minimalist lifestyle.
Yeah, and I was
making a bunch of money.
Yeah,
but like I'm just trying to be with my kids right now. But like, bro, when I first saw all these dudes doing that many 25 and that many 30 pieces, it clicked to me. Like, Pops, there's no reason I can't do at least one of these a week by myself hanging out.
100%. Yeah.
I can't. They're doing 30 a month.
Dude, you could sit on your couch and crush
4. That's what I'm saying. So my life is more around that right now. I don't want a bunch of sons, but like.
Yeah, no, and I totally respect that. And again, there's multiple ways to build this business to be what you want it to be.
Yes, which is something I love about it too. But it also is dangerous for a young person because like there's so many ways to win that like if you try to do them all at once, you're gonna flop.
You can't get distracted.
You gotta pick one lane and really stick to it. So I think it's super organic so that you know kind of exactly where your long-term vision is. So that like I had this coach once that said like if you need to go through the forest every single day, if you go in a different direction every day, you're gonna have a tough life. And it's going to be difficult.
You're gonna get lost.
You're going to get lost.
Yeah.
But if you go literally the same direction every single day, eventually there's going to be a path, and it's going to be easy.
I love that. That's a great metaphor for sure. Of like essentially, just try to keep your focus on the goal and ignore the distractions. And when you're at wholesale, the perfect example of that for me was rentals. We were starting to buy rentals.
I see the rental income in there. I was like, oh, look at it. Look at this boat with a rental.
For a wholesale loan, $2 million and $11,000 for rentals. I mean, like, what is that? Like, it's like, and like those rentals, I was talking to Joe Cipollini, he works for Eric Brewer's actually my coach and Nate's coach.
Okay.
Phenomenal coach, by the way. Can't thank him enough. He came in and we just started doing so much better because he gave us some guidance. But again, he had something similar to say, like, you're going to start like buying flips, you're going to start buying rentals, and like that's going to take away from a lot of like what the main goal is for sure, and it's going to eat away your revenue because you got to look at like Nick, like what's your time worth an hour? Probably like damn near $3,000 an hour if you actually do the math of what you make every year and divide it for like a normal working week or something like that. Mine was $3,500 an hour. Okay. So if I'm spending time talking about some person who's got a broken toilet or something like that, or and I'm not crushing grass, I am the single most expensive property manager that there ever was. And the issue with that too is like you hire a property manager and they still call you for these issues, because you're managing the property manager now. Now obviously there's in very good reasons to have rentals, and there's very successful people who have like
million rentals.
But again, if my main goal and priority, again, my lane is to start a very successcul wholesale company and flipping company, then the rentals are going to get in the way of that for sure.
Facts.
And that's something I had to realize. I didn't realize that at first because I got so caught up on, the normal rigmarole of like, you got to own rental, you got to have doors. And like when you do,
you don't.
Yeah. No, if you make money, you pay taxes, man.
Pay taxes.
You pay your taxes. You write off as much construction costs as you can. Your marketing is your best friend when it comes to writing them off. If you are getting towards like the end of the year, prepay the next 3 months for the first beginning of the year. If your marketing teams will actually allow you to do that. And can use that to further write off, because you're going to spend it anyway.
Wow.
You can use that to further write it off for the preceding, year or that year. So if you're doing $50,000 a month in marketing, it's $150,000 to let you prepay all of it. Now, some will, like PPC, you probably can't do that because that's kind of as it comes in. But mail or all those other, forms of marketing, you definitely could. So one quick dime in there to avoid some taxes.
Right, for sure. I'm new to getting all this stuff coming in. Therefore, I'm new to managing all the taxes and dealing with all these.
So we only did in 2023. I think we only did like $1.4 million in business, and then we pretty much more than doubled it the following year in 2024. But in 2023, on paper, because of all the construction that we had, it looked like we made like $35,000 that year. So like, there's ways to essentially like push the taxes back to the next year. You can never get rid of taxes; they never go away. You can only defer taxes. They come back to get you one way or another. Whenever you've had rentals your whole life, you wrote them all off. They're going to get you the recapture tax.
They're going to get you.
They're going to get you.
You're just avoiding.
Government wants to. You're avoiding it,
and the government is going to take that money.
The cool part is if you can avoid it and then put that money that would have went to the government elsewhere, it's going to For me, like I know how to 5x money, so it's going to 5x for me. If I put it in my marketing, generally, like across the board, it's like a 5x return.
Okay, I'm like 4 or 5x. So
that's where you'll probably be. The suburbs are a little bit more competitive. Or actually, I'd say
the suburbs are so much less competitive than Philly.
If you can wholesale in Philly, you can wholesale anywhere. Suburbs are so easy.
Dude, you got a trial by fire then, dude. Because you started in Philly.
I started in Philly, and I got good. The suburbs are so easy. It's not even. These are apples and oranges.
Yeah.
Philly, I'm done. And in the suburbs, if you get a deal, that sucker is gonna close.
Gonna close, yeah.
In Philly, not the case.
Title.
If I have it closed next week. Mm-hmm. If that closes, with titles, I'll be at 50%. If that doesn't close,
you're kidding me.
I swear, I'm done. No more Philly. I got roped back into it because the cost of lead, I do mainly PPL right now, and the lead cost was just so cheap. I was like, you know what?
This is helping bring down my costs significantly.
Sense, but honestly, it's not. It's like right now I'm 2 for 5.
Have you run into the fake titles yet?
Oh, bro, I've run into everything. I've run into like people showing up to closing with fake IDs.
I've run into it all.
I don't know how they pull it off, but they've literally we had a deal that was a smoker in Philly, and I went there to meet him and everything like that, and met with the guy, showed up at the house, walked the house. It wasn't the seller. It was some guy impersonating the seller. And totally wrote me along. And then we get through title and stuff like that. They're like, that's not the seller. And I'm like, it's just Prosperity Abstract. I'm like, What?
Oh, yeah, they're legit. I love them. I love them.
Yeah, they're the best.
I
best
do all my
title
stuff with
company.
them.
Yeah, Prosperity's best title company for sure.
Shout out Lexi. Shout out Maria.
Yeah.
What do you want to do?
And don't forget about Dana. Dana's great too.
Oh, Dana Slass.
So they're also great, and they're the best title company I've worked with, bar none. I've used multiple, and they're by far the best. But they picked up on it like when we were getting down to closing, and I'm like,
no, don't tell
I'm
me
like, there
that.
goes that like $70K fee I just had. Like that sucks. And there's no like, oh well, maybe I can renegotiate the seller. It's like, no, that's it, dude.
No,
this guy is like fraudulent, and I'm like, then they just ghosted us on email and stuff like that. We didn't pursue it because we're
Nah,
on to the next
yeah,
one.
yeah,
That's what it is.
If you go to my Instagram, I took a screenshot of everything that was like the email that I got from Barb. They're like, hey Nick, what do you want to do with
love
this?
Barb,
Barb's last. But I was supposed to make like 35 racks in the city this month.
Gone.
The water bill, the old mortgages, everything. It's crazy.
And that's
no more
like
Philly.
that's part of I think where you have to be tough, dude, to be in this industry. You have to be gritty, dude. There's just this is a realm of real estate where disappointment is just behind success. Like it's like right there.
Yes.
And like I'm guilty of this too because I've gotten deals done that most people have probably given up on because I refuse to give up. But there's times where you just have to be like, dude, like this is just not going to work out. Like just call it, move on to the next one, and it's so hard.
You got to eat that. I call it eating that loss immediately.
Yep, eat it, loss quickly, and move on. Yeah, exactly.
You have to have a short-term memory. Short-term memory with the wins and the losses.
Yep.
Just forget about it.
I agree, and it's it's a little up and down. It's like high the next minute, lows on the other, but. Again, part of like some of the stuff I've been listening to, I actually can't remember the exact video, and when I do, I'll definitely shout it out. But essentially, you just can't let outside sources like affect what you're doing in that moment. Like if someone quits on you, keep moving forward.
Yeah.
This deal falls apart on you, keep moving forward. If you let that stop you, then that's gonna be the determination for the rest of your career. Like that's gonna fuck you up for the rest of your life. Like you have to be able to like take a fat L and then eat dinner with your family and smile.
Yes.
If you take that home, or if you take that in your personal life, or if you even just as not as bad, but still bad, take it into your business, and people around you are saying, "Oh man, Harrison's not having a good day today because that deal fell through." It's going to affect them and their performance as well.
Oh, for sure. You can't be like that.
Exactly. That feeling spreads. It's like a virus. And so if you're able to maintain positivity, focus, and stay goal oriented, like you're going to do very well. There's nothing to stop you, quite literally, because you're the only thing that can stop you.
And those are the only things that could stop you. As long as you don't let them, you're going to be fine.
Exactly. And so, again, you got to be gritty, man, for sure.
You got to be
especially
gritty.
in acquisitions. It takes, 10 no's to get one yes, and that yes is not even a deal? It takes like 5 more yeses to be a deal, right? So it's like, you gotta take the shit. Eat shit, dude. That's part of the job is eating shit. I eat shit for a living.
There you go. But I'll tell you what, the best time to eat a shit sandwich is when it's hot.
Yeah, for sure.
Buddy.
I eat that hot shit sandwich. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So what are your goals for this year? You're restarting, you're rebranding. Well, not rebranding, but you're restarting. What are your goals for this year?
It's a phenomenal question, Nick. So my goal this year is to build up a team of probably 3 acquisitions guys who are going to be well-trained with me training them, and hopefully give them, as you're speaking, the money to keep them there, because I don't want to have to constantly. Onboarding is part of the process, but
Onboarding is tough.
Yeah, it's tough.
Hiring is tough. Onboarding is tough. Keeping them is tough.
Yep. So I'm really focused on hiring, building a team. I'm not even really necessarily looking at like a net revenue or gross revenue model yet.
Super baller.
I just want to get things back up and running to where they were, build a legitimate business to where they were without me having to worry about burnout. So everyone's doing the proper amount of work, but not too much. If they want to work weekends, they can. But if they don't want to, they don't have to. And I want to build a really good culture within my company. And I think if I'm able to do that this year, next year I'm going to shoot for $5 million in a year. Yeah, and then after that, I'm going to shoot for 10. And if 10's enough, then I'll stay at 10 and gross rev.
And you'll camp.
Then I'll camp for a while. Yeah, there is a. You can look at like New Western as an example to go and contradict exactly what I'm about to say, but I think there is kind of a limit to what like a good wholesale company should be at, like in terms of like gross revenue. When you get to like the $10 million, if you're doing $1 million a month, that's a lot of business.
That's a lot
of business. That's a lot of contracts. That's a lot of flips, whatever it is for you to make that revenue. And I think there's kind of an overhead and marketing limit that you can only really take before things start to kind of unravel. And like, your net revenue model of like that 35 to 40%, which most people try to follow, starts to unwind and fall apart.
Yeah, there's a point of diminishing return.
Exactly.
Of trying to be like that big.
Yeah. Now the virtual companies where they're able to excel is they can exceed that.
Because they're in so many different places.
Yeah. So their ad spend's across the entire United States. But the issue that I have with virtual is I feel like they just don't get as much for what they do. I think they miss a lot of deals, and I don't see them. We don't see them lasting very long.
I don't know. I don't know of too many people that have a long
Standing
lasting.
virtual.
And I've got a. Well, I have more than one hand of friends that have
Very successful business and have been in business for a lot of years.
Yep.
So I do think that it says something.
Yeah, and it could also because maybe it's a newer business model, but people have been doing virtual wholesale since, I don't know, let's just say like 2010, maybe 2015. People have been definitely doing it since like 2018. That's where it really started catching on like fire. But, you look at like Steve Trang, you look at Eric Brewer, Jim Zaspel, all these big guys who are like, throughout the entire network that we have, Santini, for example, they're all doing it in a local one market, dude.
Very local.
And what's cool about that, too, is if you stay local, then, like, once this model is totally built out and you're able to step away, you can start buying properties, and you can start flipping houses, and you can do that because it's in your market.
And you understand it so well.
Exactly.
So maybe you tapped out wholesaling, but all right, whatever.
Now I can add flips. Now I can add rentals.
Exactly.
You can do some other stuff.
Exactly. Or get in the commercial, whatever you want to do. As long as it's in your market and you have that network for it, I think there's just a lot more juice you can squeeze. Your ad spend is going to be more expensive, and maybe your employees are going to be more expensive because you're not hiring overseas. I guess you could if you wanted to, but if you're belly sales, you
can't.
want
Yeah,
for sure. I'm hiring good old American boys for sure.
Facts, bro.
Or women too. Girls kill it in acquisitions just as well as men. Actually, sometimes they outperform men, which you'll see, which not a lot of people think about, but they actually can do better for
That
sure.
doesn't surprise me.
Yep. Yeah. So again, the goal really for this year is to build the team back up. I'm already spending like $40,000 a month in marketing, and I have one acquisitions guy right now, so he's like, "Oh shit!
Oh my god!"
And are you doing any of that? Any of the acquisitions with them that I would assume?
I read the gems real quick. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna call that one.
Yeah, you're cherry picking
It's
a
just
good
one day I'm like under agreement. It's so easy for me. It's like sometimes I surprise myself. I'm like, this person's probably not gonna sell me their house because perfect example. Someone came in. They're in Phoenixville. They had bought the house for $520,000. This is actually one of Mark's leads. Had bought the house for $525,000, and it needed a lot of work. And she unfortunately got screwed by some contractors, and it was like the demo. They did the demo, so it was like less of a house than when she bought it.
Yeah.
And so like I had to break the news to her that she wanted like $525 to $600, and I got her an agreement for $315. So to go for that price drop, I was like, there's probably no way she accepted it. And that's because I stuck to my guns. I followed the process that I have. I spent a lot of time, built a lot of rapport.
Yeah, and she believed you.
And she believed it. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
You hit her with the truth. Like,
you lost.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and you got to do it in a way that's like respectful, because if you're like, oh man, this house is fucked. Look at this. This is a total mess. And they're like, what? Like you're like, it's like the equivalent if you like walked up and said like they had an ugly kid.
Yeah,
it's just something you don't say.
You can't say that someone's baby.
Like, oh yeah, your kid's special. For sure. You had a good kid on these.
Hey, he looks just like you.
You play football. Get him playing football. But the way I go about it is like, you kind of, again, using psychological warfare, let them come to their own conclusion. You're like, oh man, so the contractor ripped you off, and it looks like, you must have paid a lot of money to get all this done, but there's still so much work to do, She's like, yeah, and you just let her talk. Sometimes sellers will walk into a situation where they, they're like, oh man, the basement floods. Oh no, the basement floods? That's, and it's not necessarily a big deal, but like, you're like, well, what are you going to do about that? I can't afford that. I can't fix that. I'm like, oh man, like, what if you were to list that for Realtor? Like, that's going to be a problem. You're like, it probably will be. So like, you use them in a way that they reach their own conclusions, without having to say it themselves.
Exactly.
So if you can go through the house with them and let them kind of voice their concerns, and then, go 3 deep on each concern, ask them multiple questions per each concern that they have, you let them reach their own conclusion. Like, I need to get out of this.
I may start doing that a little bit more, asking more questions like that on their concerns.
Yeah.
I like that.
Obviously the first question you ask them is like, did you think about listing with a Realtor? Absolutely not. I don't want anyone else in my house. You're like, well, why is that? And then you just keep going off of like, why they don't want anyone. It's like, you're like, wait, so someone like me who is only going to have like 1 to maybe 2 people in the house from start to finish, you think that's something you would want?
Yeah, that's what I need.
Now, when you work with me, of course, you're not going to get market value, so you're going to probably leave some equity on the line. Are you okay with that? Yeah. All right, so now you know that right away this person's the perfect fit for you. They've vetted you. You've vetted them. I'm going to that appointment.
The appointment. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you don't talk about price on the phone. I never talk about outbound leads, I talk about price.
Yeah.
Inbound leads, I would never consider.
Get that appointment, man.
Brewer. Appointment. I don't talk about condition on the phone either.
Yep.
Never. I only talk motivation.
Yep.
That's it.
Again, with that 45-minute phone call, you're kind of scrambling to try to
Yeah, I'm not.
I try to go over as much as I can, but if they're like, if I ask for price and they don't give me price, I'm not going to push. We're like, Sally, I know you said you didn't want to list with realtors, you didn't want people in the house, and, the house needs a lot of work. If we were to buy the property and obviously, really, really focus on, what's important to you, not having people in the home and buying the property as is, what do you think you'd sell the property for? And just dead silence. And you just the silence technique. I learned that from Jim Zaspel.
I'm so good at just being silent, bro. My comfort level is through the roof. And they'll always break and they'll say some stuff.
They always say some stuff too. And even hardcore investors, like landlords who are just wanting the most money. Like if you can get that silence out of them, they'll come back and probably say something that you want them to say because they feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And when I first started, I would word vomit, and that's something that people are going to run into when they first start. They're going to be like,
for sure.
And they're just going to say things like, try to follow an 80-20 rule. 80% they're talking, 20% you're talking.
Very solid.
Very hard to do, but if you can, silence will show their vulnerabilities. Silence will essentially allow them to overtalk, and when they overtalk, they tell you things that you want to know that maybe they didn't originally tell you.
And I think it requires a high level of comfortability to not talk and be comfortable like that. And if you have that much confidence and comfortability, you must be very real.
100%.
And that's what I have found in my own business.
Yeah, and that's something that when you hire a new acquisitions guy, maybe they have some sales experience and stuff like that, but they're still going to word vomit. They're still going to be a little bit uncomfortable. And that's something that, can only really get beat out of you through doing multiple deals and building that confidence that you are a good fit for this person. You're actually going to get this done for them. When you first started out and you locked up your first deal, you're like, oh shit, what do I do now?
That feeling,
you're like, I just got this under agreement. Am I going to actually be able to get this to close? And so when you're going through that first sale, your confidence isn't there because a seller making a price. You've never done it, and you're like, I don't know if I can actually get this to closing. So you're not speaking definitive language to the seller. You're not giving them all the stuff that they want. You don't want to show ass to a seller. I've never heard that term before.
No.
Yeah, so you don't want to essentially show them that potentially there's a way that this could fall through, or that you personally feel that there might be a high chance of that. You want to speak with confidence, of course, obviously with the rhetoric of your contract, which probably has an inspection period and all that stuff.
Honestly, mine don't.
Yeah. Most of mine, I generally, if it's a banger, I put 0 days inspection.
Yeah, I used to, and then I lost out on a banger deal, really for no reason. I knew I was going to sling the sucker, at a minimum, even if I got my numbers wrong, I'd make at least $20,000.
Yeah.
And man, I should for no reason. I had this. That's why they didn't sign. I was, Pop, sign the agreement. What do you do? I'm waiting for them to hit the DocuSign. You know what? I just signed for somebody else, same price, but they didn't put an inspection period in there. And ever since then, and if I need an inspection period, if I'm not confident, I'm just not going to lock it up, Pop.
Yep. Yeah. And I think that's why a lot of wholesalers get a bad name, because they're locking up deals and daisy chaining and shit. And it's not even a deal that they can actually get done. But I've actually mastered the art of getting people, even landlords, to accept my inspection periods. And I'll hit you with that pitch real quick. So imagine you see the inspection period the first time it pops up. They're like, what's this due diligence period you see on here? Oh, well, Mr. Seller, listen, we've learned a lot of lessons through paying over the years. We buy a lot of properties, anywhere between 10 and 15 a month. Again, learning those lessons has taught us that we need a proprietary inspection period in this. It's actually baked in as company policy. It's not special to you. It's just across the board because we buy so many properties. And again, we only look for major things. So issues like, foundational issues, maybe if you have a septic system, if there's any septic issues, and it's not a tool for us to renegotiate. If it doesn't work, we'll know very quickly. I'm very confident myself that we can get this done. But if it doesn't work, we'll just part ways, and that'll be it. No waste of time or money on your end. It'll be only 5 to 7 days and real quick and easy. And a lot of times they accept that because you hit them with the proprietary and you hit them with the company policy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, it makes it seem like it's not specific to their deal. So you're not showing ass to them specifically. Again, it's the company, your brand, that is requiring this.
Yeah. No, I dig that.
So again, pushing off the issues to a third party. It's not me. It's just the company. I just want to get this done for you. This is just something we have in this agreement in order to get it done. And that way you can.
All right.
That way you can. I generally don't back out of deals. Sometimes I renegotiate. I don't renegotiate on purpose. I know some people build a business model trying to squeeze it out.
I think that's super toxic. I dislike that. I frown upon that so heavy. It gives us a bad name.
Nick, word travels faster than money, man.
It's so fast. I'm not trying to mess with that. That's awful.
If you're going to build a brand off of just trying to shice people out at $3,000 to $5,000.
No, that's crazy.
And granted, that's a lot of money, but that's just,
not enough of my name.
Yeah, my word's worth more than that, for sure.
For me, when I did the inspection period, I didn't do a script, my boy. You know what I said? Heck yeah, I'm doing an inspection period. Do I look like I do the work? Are you kidding? I can't tell. Are you nuts?
Yep.
I had to have my contractor make sure that I didn't see anything. I didn't miss something stupid. Are you crazy?
100%.
Look at me.
100%.
And then they look at me and they say, okay.
Yeah.
So
I stand behind this. I'm going to get this done. I just need to make sure that I'm not making a mistake after closing. We're in this to make money. We're not in this to lose money.
Exactly.
Unfortunately, that's why businesses exist. And if you have an issue with this, this due diligence period, maybe we can try to work something out. But is it really that big of a deal for you?
No, I get that.
Most of the time they say no. The hardest ones are going to be like landlords and stuff. They're like, you said as is. And so this is my pitch for as is. Well, so Mr. Seller, you sell properties all the time on market. And like when you sell a property on the market, you still have to write out a big disclosure, right?
Yeah.
It's like, are you writing out a big disclosure? No. Well, so when we close on this property, you're familiar with the term, it is what it is. So after we buy this property, Mr. Seller, we're buying this as is with our own proprietary due diligence period to make sure we're not making a mistake. But if we miss something and we close, you're not held liable after closing. Don't tell me anything that's wrong with the property. Just let us do our own thing. And if it works for us, great. It should.
Yeah. And if we get caught holding the bag, it's a problem.
Yeah, exactly. And so a lot of times they chill out for sure.
I think that's a good way to ask.
Yeah, and the due diligence period we keep because if you're doing so much volume, it's really
You guys are doing
access.
Yeah.
It's the access.
For sure, the access. I'm not doing as many deals. I'm doing a deal a week. So for me, it's so simple. Like,
Dude, deal a week's great. That's awesome.
So like for me, it doesn't really it's not the beginning. How much of my deposit? Like a stack. If it rolls through, take my stack.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah.
But like a young person getting into this, they're not going to have the same attitude. Losing the stack would crush them. So copy what he's saying.
So the first deal I did, it was driving for dollars lead. It was this guy, the landlord who owned the property. His net worth is over $40 million. He's out in Pottstown. Yeah, and so the house, he had gotten into a really bad accident. So I called him at the right time, and he wasn't able to finish the home. I met him in person. I gave him my agreement. He crossed out the inspection period and put $10,000 as the earnest money. So it was a high number like that. Yeah. And I was like, dude, that's all the money I have in my bank account. He's like, this isn't going to be an issue for you. And again, part of having balls and taking risks, I was like, absolutely not. Yeah. He's like, I'm going to take this to closing.
You'll always figure it out.
Yeah. Well, so getting down 2 weeks before closing, I'm freaking out because I'm like, I can't find a buyer. It was I think it was a 40-day closing period or something like that, which he also had an issue with, but I kept it because that was the one thing I stood on. And I ended up finding a really big buyer in the area, Jim, who bought the property. Nice. I made a $17K spread. So that was a good first deal for me. But yeah, man, that was trial by fire for sure.
Yeah.
That was the first month I started wholesaling. I crushed my first deal.
Bro, that's awesome.
Yeah, I got that locked up 2 weeks into wholesaling.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I did my first deal really quick, but I'll tell you what, it wasn't 17 grand. It was $2,700 flat.
Still a win.
I was
still a win.
It gave me the proof of concept.
No marketing costs. Yeah.
And then we go.
Exactly. And obviously the second deal I did too was an 80K spread out.
Jeez.
Yeah, I got like I said, dude.
You came in hot.
My trials and tribulations haven't been. My life is good. I love my life.
What were you doing before you started doing this? If you don't mind me
asking? It's a great question. So before I was wholesaling, I went to college at Millersville University, and actually went to school for safety and industrial hygiene. So it's kind of like an industrial lifeguard, so to speak. I would be like, you can't, walk too fast near the pool, but the difference would be you can't drive that forklift without a helmet on or something like that. So essentially, I was doing a role I would never be good at because I'm just not a safety guy at all.
You're a big balls guy.
Wasn't a good fit for me, but I thought for some reason that would tell me or would pay me the money that I wanted or give me the lifestyle that I wanted. But one thing to realize and what to know too is when you're working for a corporation, look at your boss. Is he happy? Look at your boss's bosses. Is he happy or she happy? If none of them are happy,
that's not what you want.
What the hell are you doing? Do something. If you're young and you want to take the risk, now's the time to take the risk. Make that jump. Because worst case scenario, you're back to being unhappy, just like your boss and his boss, or whatever the corporate ladder is. So, part of me seeing that was huge because I actually saw it and I acted on it. And of course, me and Nick got intertwined and started a company and it just worked out from there. Obviously it's been hard. It's been, the first year we were doing it, we were, I was living in my mom's basement and I'm not really making any money at all. Even though we crushed this 80K spread and all that stuff, that went to paying off debt and all this stuff. Immediately spent on life. Yeah, immediately spent on life and marketing and stuff like that. So it wasn't easy, but I wasn't living on the streets and I wasn't, I'm a white boy from the suburbs, life is.
It's only so bad.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not moving back into my parents' house. I'll put it that way. I'd rather be homeless. But that being said, I mean, some people have these like wonderful, beautiful stories of, trials and tribulations. For me, it was literally just realizing that what I was doing was not going to make me happy in my life, and knowing like what I wanted. And again, the world, does not get in the way of a man who knows what he wants. And I knew what I wanted at the time, and I kept pushing forward and pursuing, my dreams. And it worked out pretty well, I would say. I have no complaints.
There we go, my boy. Heck yeah.
And I can own a lot of that too, is to like, both YouTube, like YouTube University, man, for sure.
Yeah, that's how I got going.
Yeah, dude, college, what a joke. Like, what a waste. I mean, great 4 years of my life. Best 4 years of my life I think I've ever had.
Yeah,
so much fun. Yeah, but other than that, like, doing that style of work or that career, like if I had the same mindset I had when I was like, now at my age of 28, but when I was like 18, dude, I would be loaded by now.
Yeah, you're real-blooded.
100%. And, I think part of you has to step back and take a look and like really honestly realize, like, is this the life I want to live?
That's a good question.
And if you step back and you say it's not, then do something different.
There's always time to change.
100%. Even if you're 65 years old, there's nothing to stop you. If you're determined,
You're 65-year-old, what are you going to lose?
Exactly. Like, at that point, I guess you got Social Security and all that shit. But like,
who cares?
Like you got a backing. So I took the risk and I jumped, and it worked out for me. I didn't, again, another thing that people, when they start, they overanalyze and maybe do almost too much research before they actually just start picking up the phone and dialing.
Can't do that. That's toxic. It'll crush you.
100%. Pick up the phone, start dialing, crush a couple deals, use that money that you get from those deals to actually build out a company or build out your systems, whatever it is you want to do. Overanalyzation is a causation for failure, for sure.
Facts. Paralysis by analysis.
Exactly. Yep. Sometimes you just have to have the balls to get started.
That's it.
And it pans out, dude. And people respect that too. If you're going into a situation, I was completely honest with that guy too. But that's why he took away like all like you put like a 10K non-refundable. And he, like every time I see him, he goes to meetups and stuff. He's like, I still can't believe you got that deal done.
Yeah, that's cool.
So it's cool to see that. And like I said, I never try to leave people with a bad taste in their mouth doing business with them. And wholesale, unfortunately, that's kind of a rarity because a lot of people, not like just taking advantage of sellers, but giving them like a bad experience when they sell. You want it to be what they came here for. What did they type into Google to find your website? Sell my house fast,
bro. They want
sell their fucking house fast.
Dude, they're looking for speed and convenience, and so you got to give it to them.
Exactly. One of my favorite things too to tell a seller, especially if they come in and they're coming in playing a little bit of hardball with you, like, yeah, I want maximum value. Like, all right, well, Mr. Seller, imagine you have 3 baskets and 100 apples. One of those baskets is price, the other one's convenience, and the other one's time. Where are you putting all your basket? Where are you putting all your apples? If they say price, you'd be like, well, why did you reach out to a company like ours? I mean, you could fix up the property and list it for Realtor and get exactly what you want. A lot of times they'll come back with, oh, I don't want to do that. Well, then, are you a little bit more flexible on the price in order to have convenience and time? And a lot of times they'll start opening up, and it's a great way to.
Oh, well, I really dig that.
Yeah,
I don't put them in that position at all. So I like that you do that on the phone.
You got to put them not necessarily defensive, but you have them try to reach their own conclusion on their own because they reached out to you.
Yeah,
there's a reason they're trying to sell it. Sometimes, obviously, people are looking for too much. They're like this.
Sometimes people are nuts.
Yeah. Sometimes they want to they think it's an easier way to sell their house themselves or something like that. And like again,
it's being cheap.
Yeah, it's the cheapos, and there's all those people there. But if you're reaching someone who really is actually looking for all 3 of those things, or maybe mostly convenience or mostly time or whatever it happens to be.
Book the appointment.
Yeah, you can book the appointment. But again, you can use that in person or on the phone. I do both. I actually prefer in person because it kind of paints a picture.
Yeah.
If you do belly to belly. But there's a lot of ways you can try to dig information out of sellers that otherwise is impossible to get on your own. There's no script that can, really.
No, there's no script.
Yeah, you got to read them. You have to be able to understand what they want, and then you have to try to show them that they can get what they want if they work with you and they accept your offer.
And that you are their solution.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's been a heck of a run. It's nowhere near over, man. I'm excited to stay in the industry.
Near over.
And, even, regardless of what happens with these the legislation and the rules and stuff like that, if you're in the burbs, double closing isn't the end of the world. It's a big waste of money, but if I'm making 30, 50, 60K spreads.
Huge waste of money.
Yeah. I mean, I'm probably going to lose on average $5,000 to maybe $7,000 per transaction. And that's something I have to understand. You don't want them all, but I think there's an advantage to staying in Pennsylvania instead of jumping house and going to another state or another market. And the biggest reason being, if I can't make it work here with this legislation, and this is this model I want to stick to at all.
It's true.
I want to be like an official company, you know, and if I have to do the things that they want me to do, I'll do it as long as I can make it work and build out a system
And if you can't, then you have to figure something else out.
100%. And the unfortunate reality, too, I think is what they've really done with the legislation that's been passed is screw homeowners more than
Facts.
because now I have to make a lower offer. You know?
Dude, I've been saying this. It doesn't help the sellers. It doesn't help the sellers whatsoever. Like, if you're making me have to double close or making me have to buy it and then resell it, like the same. At the end of the day, the seller's not making more money, and all the young bucks that are down to make $5,000, they're gone now. Only people,
no $5,000.
It's only me and my buddies that have deep pockets.
Yep.
And like, not that we're all in cahoots, but like we all have our minimums are a lot higher.
Yeah, exactly.
So like their offers that seller's receiving are all going to be lower, and like, the only people that are going to make any more money are the title companies and the state. So like,
And realtors, of course.
no way, because anyone who sells to me, like, they don't want to go with a realtor. That's why they're rocking with me.
Yep.
So the realtors are not going to make more money.
No. And again, I think that's what's hard for realtors to understand, because they look at like wholesalers as like competition, but we're
not.
We're really a completely different market than you guys are.
On the phone, I literally say, "Yo, Pops, why don't you just list this with a realtor?"
Every time, first thing you say.
Every single time. Like, you had to tell me that you don't want to or you can't do it for me to do an appointment with.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, and if they,
So like, I promise, if we were competition, you'd be getting those boys, but you're not.
no, and I do a whole lot of novations too, and shout out to Janelle Logan, who's my go-to realtor. She's a top broker in Exton, but she has helped me with all these novations. We've done a ton of novations, and again, it's just having multiple exit strategies opens you up to even more leads.
Yeah.
And to actually make more money off your ad spend. And so that's something too that helped us blow up a lot. Was actually
a lot of novations.
We weren't doing novations in 2023. We started doing them in 2024.
Okay. So you did well with innovation.
It was we were maybe doing like 25% novations.
Okay.
And the rest was like generally just wholesale assignments. You know, so it's just like on that little bit of extra people who like came in and like fit like the perfect bill for a novation. You know, we would get involved in, and I even go the step above where a lot of others don't, and I actually make improvements to the property before we list it.
Okay.
So I actually take the risk on that too. So I'll put like $5,000 to $10,000, paint carpets, whatever, to help them, get it sold quick if that's what they want. Other times too, man, you can get into an installment sale, which I actually am doing right now in Phoenix.
Triangle thing. Okay.
Which installment sales are dope too. So there's multiple different exit strategies you can try to incorporate. And again, it helps you catch with that golden net more leads that would normally slip through.
I think that.
So you got to make that net bigger, make it wider. So I definitely owe her a debt of gratitude. I owe lenders a debt of gratitude. My network is who I am, for sure. I'd be nowhere. And it was funny, too, because Janelle was actually a potential buyer for one of my first. That's how I met her.
Oh, wow.
It's actually one of my wholesale things I was trying to sell, and she ended up not being a good fit. But over time, we built good rapport, and she ended up being a great realtor for us. But and same thing for a lot of other people, too. You meet a lot of people through wholesale, especially on the disposition sides of sellers and stuff like that, and it helps you build an even better network.
For sure.
And there's nothing to stop you. If your network, if you have a decent head on your shoulders, a work ethic, and a network, what can't you do in America?
100%. You don't have to have a network yet. You can build a network, and it doesn't really take that. Yeah. If you just move correctly, you'll build it.
Dude, if people follow you on Instagram and they look at your videos and catch your tips, that's their network.
Yeah.
That's a version of a network. They have you now to rely on for information.
Yes.
The network can encompass just people, but also systems, everything that surrounds you. And so as you're working, your network is just getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. You're meeting more and more important people. I went to this big, it was a fundraising event for this guy who does like these really large commercial acquisitions out in Cumberland County. It's really cool, Drew. And I was meeting all these like hyper successful people, but you meet these people, this guy's like making he's got over $100 million owned in real estate, and he's got a tech company that makes like $30 million gross a year. It's like you talk to these guys and they're like love to talk about it. They love to talk about their success, but at the same time, obviously they're very smart and very well spoken, but they also seem, they're not aliens, they're regular people.
No.
If they can do it, why can't we? What's to stop us?
Absolutely nothing. Just our minds.
That's it. That's it. It's only like the only weakness is yourself. That's it. So if you're able to eat the shit and keep fucking looking for something better, then great.
You're gonna be all right.
If you can't eat the shit, then get a 9-to-5, dude. I mean,
there's
no shame.
And there really isn't.
No.
Some people are 9-to-5 guys, and they're super beautiful.
Yeah.
I would never. Me personally, I wouldn't succeed.
I wouldn't succeed either.
I think either you would succeed in that way or you wouldn't. And I just wouldn't. But I think it's super gangster to have a 9-to-5.
Yeah, I agree. And that's just the lifestyle you want to live. Part of being the lifestyle that we're in is it's a little high stress. So
Yeah,
you
but
get
you may need that stress. Like I
get off
I love it. Yeah, like
Yeah.
I just like I enjoy it. I need it in my life.
I agree. It's exciting. You know, maybe I'll end up dying by the time I'm 65. Who knows, from pulmonary issue or something like that.
Screw that. I mean, but you could also get a hold of it. Like I actually don't live my life that stressed out, even with the money. Like that's the beauty of like making good money. Like when I made less money, and like if I had
That was the stress. Was the money was the stress?
Yeah,
For us, it's not the money that's the stress.
like it not that's a huge like I'm thinking like once you start getting into it, you're gonna think like 10 grand is so much money, but it's not.
No.
That the reason why everyone wants to make so much money is that like so that you can have off months, you can have off quarters.
Exactly.
Like, your life is not affected.
100%.
Like, it's I think it should be if you want to really get into this in this paid marketing game, you need to get to it. You need to race to that point so that it's not so stressful and chaos.
Yep.
That you don't have to live at the mercy of these deals.
100%.
Like, I've led to be like this, and it's very nice that I'm like this. I don't live stressed.
Yeah.
Like I do a bunch of anti-stress things. I do the grounding. I do the sauna. I do all the hippie bullshit. But like
That's good. That's not hippie bullshit. That's modern science.
I'm not.
That's good.
I'm gonna live till I'm super old because I take care. I'm not being. No way. You should.
Yeah, it's just
that's. That's
and the reason I say it's just because like you, I had a property manager who would manage. He's now my property manager. His son is my property manager, but I used him for my rentals in Lancaster because I went to school in Lancaster, and so I like called him and like I guess his dad had died at like 60, you know, because he had a high stress lifestyle. So
forget that. It's not worth it.
But then he was a property manager too. It's like property management's not really
No way.
glory. Yeah, not like glory property management. Sure, there's a great way to have like a very successful business.
Yeah,
model,
you can make a ton of bread.
I'd rather do something else, you know, than that. But it's something I think that you have to realize too. Like if you want to get in the business, you got to be able to deal with the stress because it's going to be there.
It is going to be there. Yes.
Yeah. And again, you know, part of being good at business is letting it go. Like don't let it bother you. You know,
that's key.
That's it. And that's the hardest. It's hard
to learn that. It really
is very hard. You know, but like having the network that you have and the network that I have, you look at all these people who also deal with the stress. It's nothing to them. You know?
No, not at all.
They're just like it's like you build like a really deep scar, so to speak, of this, and like it just gets your skin gets tougher. You know, you build a business bark, so to speak.
Oh, big.
You know, that it just allows you just to eat shit with a smile on your face, and it's just another day in the office. You know.
Damn right.
So I'm definitely looking forward to what the future has, and you know, I definitely want to keep talking about some stuff. So if there's anything else you want to like really kind of pan out or ask me, I'd love to keep going.
Well, bro, what do you want to talk about?
I mean, we did go over acquisitions to an extent, but I think I could maybe shed a little more light into that. You know, digging a little deeper into, you know, an acquisitions process. I'm not a huge fan of scripts. I think a lot of people rely heavily on scripts. For me, I think the importance of the script is to essentially follow the flow of the conversation and to ask the questions that need to be asked. But I think if someone reads off of a script, like verbatim, I think they're not going to, if that's what they rely on, I don't think they're going to do very well.
No. You have to have it. You have to have that sauce.
You got to be able to roll with the punches.
It's okay to base what you're saying, I think, off of a script, especially in the beginning. But like, I did this one sales rule, and it was like memorize, but then internalize. And then once you've actually internalized it, you don't have to deal with the script, and you can be
100%
more yourself.
It becomes verbal memory, I guess. Verbal muscle memory.
Yeah, verbal muscle memory.
Yep.
It's like you've recited a bunch of things that you say all the time on the phone, or say all the time in an appointment. You say the same thing every single time.
Yeah.
I say the same thing every single time. Like you don't think you have a script, but you kind of do. Low-key.
100% I do. Yeah, and it's kind of an internal thing too. So I think part of what I struggled with in the previous years is actually being able to teach that to other people.
Yeah.
Like how do I, besides them shadowing me, I guess just like following everything that I do, like how do I teach a sales rep working for me to perform like I perform, given that obviously they're intelligent and they have a work ethic and they want to do what I do. It's hard, man. You know, it's hard to teach someone to do what you do, and I really think that a lot of it's kind of trial by fire. Yeah. Like they have to actually get into the game. They actually have to start talking to sellers. They have to build that self-confidence, knowing that not only can they do it, but they're being backed by someone who's going to help them as well.
Yeah, I fully agree with that.
But you also got to give them the tools. And so like right now I'm working really hard to kind of build out like systems and like kind of not necessarily have a script, but just have like a definite identification to my process. And when I tell you
you need that, bro. You need that.
Sure.
There has to be a set process. At least what I found.
100%.
Like there has to be an exact set process, and every different person is a different human being.
Exactly.
So like, If you're going to be successful, they're not going to be successful trying to be you. They'll never be Harrison, but like they could be really, really like, I could be a good Nick Massini, like, Alec could be a great Alex Sutherland, know. So as long as they focus on being a great whoever they are under your process, bro, they'll shine.
Yeah, and I just imagine like if someone could just be 70% of me, they'll do $1 million a year. Yeah,
you'll be all right.
And so that kind of goes on the topic too of like, what am I going to pay this guy? What does a position at Pikeland Property Group look like in like an acquisitions?
Yeah, what are you going to give him?
Yeah, so
do you feel comfortable saying that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I don't want to make, because it's going to be probably more than what a lot of other people are offering, so I don't want to
say it.
taint the water, so to speak. But they're going to get a $40K base. They're going to get 10% commission on whatever they kill, and that's going to be anything between flips, wholesales, rentals. I'll give them a flat fee. Whatever it is I happen to buy, they get paid every time.
Oh, Brian, you're going to give them a base salary. Super good. So you're going to have
benefits. All
you're going to be able to get a tip top person.
And that's my goal too. I think if I pay someone, and I actually took that out of Santini's book, because he pays his guys really well. I mean, they get paid phenomenally. And so he has the best talent in New Jersey.
By far, it's so funny. So they had, like, Santini's a really good friend of mine. I talk to him most days of my life. And the people that are at his company would sit for 5 years for him, no problem.
Exactly. And that's what you want.
Dude, they love him. And like, it's always the same people year after year. He doesn't have turnaround. And in our business for acquisition guys, that's just not even something that exists.
Yeah,
the turnover is ridiculous. Hell over there, bro. They're happy.
Yeah. So in theory, if like someone were to perform well at Pikeland, and with me, like they would walk away with like $140K a year.
Heck yeah, for a sales job, bro. That's pretty cool.
For a sales job that doesn't really require, dude, I don't really care about your previous experience. I look for like, a high COG score. I look for a good, predictive index test to show me like, essentially you can learn and stuff like that. But if you show me like a work ethic, I don't care if you have, criminal history. I don't care anything.
Yeah.
If you're willing to show up and work for me and try your hardest and perform, then that's what I want. And like, I want to try to keep those people, and part of acquisitions is like, obviously, finding people who can process these leads the best that they can, but also they learn as they go, and they get smarter as they go, and they get better as they go.
Yes.
And so I don't want to let those people go, And so like I think having a script and the ability to onboard people, the script kind of taints the waters a little bit, but like the onboarding part is like where I need to work on. Like that's like something that I need to build some skills at. And so like what I'm actually doing right now is, with like my sales agreement, I'm building out essentially through ChatGPT, like just talking into it, like how I would explain the sale agreement to a seller.
Yeah.
And have them essentially be able to see what I say in each talking point. Like what I say when they ask about the due diligence period, what I say when they ask about like, the earnest money, or like why the APN's on the, on the contract, all that stuff. And so like, those are things I want to be able to build out, and systems I want to be able to have. And that's new to me as being an acquisitions guy, because there's when you go from being just solely acquisitions to a business owner,
it's so different, bro.
There's a little bit of a, and it's a learning curve for sure. And I'm not struggling. I'm definitely pulling it off, but that's something I have to really focus on this year. And so like kind of erring on acquisitions, if I'm able to essentially give them all the hints and tools and stuff that I can build from myself to an acquisitions person, they should definitely be able to perform.
Oh, they'll crush. It's just a matter of getting it actually all on paper so that they can have something to go off.
Yeah, how do you do that?
Dude, it's tough.
How do you extract that information from Nick? Like how do you get that idea? Like it's kind of hard.
I've made a lot of hires, and I'll tell you what, Harrison, they were all, I wasted so much good talent that has come into my doors, like trying to build like a big business. Like I tried to build this into a big business multiple times before I figured out my path, and I had to restart this multiple times.
Yep.
And I have a lot of experience hiring poorly.
and I think that's part of it too.
Yes.
You want to hire someone who you think is going to fit the business, but not only not waste your time, but you want to waste theirs either.
Yeah, but I've had so much actual talent come through my doors that I mishandled because I didn't give them the right systems, and they could have been great, and it was only my fault that they weren't. So like I just brought on a new sales guy, and I took that onboarding period so serious. I made him wait the 2 weeks or so, like before, or 3 weeks
before he starts out.
So I had all my
wonderful
stuff, all like it was impossible for him to screw up.
Yeah,
impossible, because I had everything just so laid out, perfect. Like,
see, you got a system now. You have a system,
and now I have a system. If I want to bring anybody else on, I don't know if I ever will, but like,
I mean, dude, it's entirely up to you. But I think that
That's my wife's name. My daughter.
Nice to meet you.
My daughter. You can't see her, but
Oh, so you got 1 kid, 2 kids?
2 kids.
Nice, dude. That's awesome. That's success right there. It's having a family for sure.
Yeah, I'm very, very
Lucky man, dude.
I'm home with them every single day.
It's amazing.
My daughter's too young. I don't bring her on appointments. But before we had her, my wife used to come with me to everything.
Yeah,
my son I had with another woman, so I have him a couple days a week. And the days when I have him, he does the same 30 things every single day. He goes and sees a yucky house with daddy, at least one. He goes to the gym and mixes, practices takedowns. And every house he sees, he gets $5 to put in his piggy bank.
He's gonna be a killer acquisitions guy. He's been shadowing you for some time now.
Bro, he is a killer acquisition guy.
He's gonna murder it.
He shook a lot of strangers' hands.
He's gonna murder it. That's great. And obviously too, like it's just like you have a reason at the end of the day, I think, to work hard and like you have a goal to take care of your family. You know,
Facts.
I think a lot of people, like for me, like and I guess the earlier years of Pikeland was just like, you know, entirely money based. Like my goal was entirely just like to make as much money as possible to buy cars, Rolexes, whatever. Now I'm like just saving as much money as I can to essentially put into whatever big future goals I have, which would be like, you know, having a family at some point, you know, buying a good family home at some point, you know, and also like being able to start other businesses and stuff down the line. So it takes a level of maturity, I think, to change that mindset. And I think a lot of people, when they start out, they look at it like on the small scale, like, man, I want a nice BMW. I got the used BMW. It just ends up being another car. You drive it, and it's just, you know, it's nice to have the heated seats and the you know, the cooled seats and the, you know, nice stereo and for it to be fast. But it's just like any other car. You know, I'd still drive my Mercury Grand Marquis.
Heck yeah!
You know, I started from the gutter, you know. And
I'm driving a Hyundai. So
you don't need to have a fancy car. You don't need to. You know, what you should really be focused on is like, how can I put this money to work? Like, how can I use this money to further obviously like financial freedom, which is cool when people say it, but I don't know if anyone's actually financially ever free. You know, it's kind of hard unless you have like a money manager and millions of dollars. I guess that's the only true way. But for us, I mean, we have to earn our keep. You know, we got to earn our money.
Yeah,
you know, so financial freedom won't come for me until I'm older, and I'm okay with that. You know, so that's essentially what I'm working towards.
You're de-influencing these people, which they need.
They just need to understand that it's not peaches and roses, but it's like shitty houses and lots of money. So
lots of money for real.
We you know, the trash business is a gold mine, and we definitely deal with a lot of trash.
Yeah. Oh my God, the trash business is a gold mine.
It is, you know, it is what it is. But you know, to go back on acquisitions, you know, any person who starts out, that's like the first thing they should work on is their sales skills. Like how well, essentially, a one-man band, the most important thing you can work on besides obviously finding leads is refining your process, your sales skills, and figuring out how you can outperform people like me or like you or other people who are going to be talking to the same lead. And one really good subject I can talk about here is let's imagine the best but worst lead ever. You got a motivated seller who's gotten 10 different mailers. All right. And this guy calls you or this lady calls you and they tell you, I'm going to call every single mailer I have and I'm going to accept the highest offer. How do you set yourself apart at that appointment in that process? Immediately, 45 minutes on the phone with this guy. No one else is probably doing that. No. You're going to try to talk his ear off. You're going to meet him in person, all right? And you're going to spend a large amount of time at that house, but you don't want to be the first guy to make the offer.
No.
He's going to have other people come. You don't want to be the guy who gives him the bad news, that the asking price he has is a little bit too unrealistic. Let someone else do the hard work for you. Let someone else taint their reputation or rapport with that person.
Yeah, you want to go see it last.
Yeah. I'll see it first, and I'll wait a week to make him an offer. I'll follow up with him. Hey, Mr. Seller, how are things going? Do you have anyone else who say, you know, we're still working on your offer. Things are just kind of behind a little bit. You know, we just need a little bit more time. If he's like, well, give me the damn offer, I'm ready to accept it, you know, then you can make him the offer.
Yeah.
But you want to try to keep that, you know, from rapport going, and you want to see where they end up with other people, and you can either come in and beat it, or with that tactic, I've made offers $30,000 low before my competition, but because of how I present myself and because of my reputation and because of I was a local company, you know, brick and mortar, I got it accepted $30,000 lower. And it was also an estate transaction too. And that's happened on there's multiple family members. It wasn't just that person, but they went to bat for me because I followed that rule and what I do.
Yeah, so
I stick with the process.
The realist, yeah.
And so, again, you know, wholesale real estate is a business model anyone can do, but how you set yourself up against your competition is how you can essentially be better than them. What makes you different than those other guys?
And it is a competition.
Mm-hmm.
It really is. It is a competition. Make no mistake.
Yeah. And, obviously me and you sit down and I sit down to any of my competition. I, give them any tips and tricks I could ever give them to benefit them in the long run. But
they wouldn't think that, I mean, people wouldn't think that it's like that. It's so funny. Well, like in this business, all the guys to the top, that's how we all are with each other. Everybody gives each other their information. It's
everyone. And again, it's them not having that scarcity mindset.
Yes.
If I'm willing to actually get deals done on a day-to-day basis, I don't care if anyone's going to come and ask me a question.
Yeah.
Sure, ask me a question. Shoot me on Facebook. You can, find me at, Harrison Hall on Facebook, or on Instagram. You can find me at Harry the Home Buyer. Ask me a question. I'll gladly answer it to the best of my ability. If I have time to answer it, or bring a deal. If you can't lock it up and you need some help,
bro,
I'll hop on it. I'll JV it with anyone who wants to obviously work with a good closer. But again, I mean, you really have to set yourself up with your sales and your sales skills to outperform your competition. And then once you've figured out how to do that, then you can really create a business model off of that if you want, or you can be the guy who has a good lifestyle in a life. And I don't have a life right now, so I'm not going to be the guy who has a life. So I'm going to probably grind my nuts off until I have the result that I want, or I die trying. Really, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I feel like I don't grind my dick off, and my wife would tell me otherwise.
Yeah. But you want to know why? It's because you love what you do.
I have so much fun.
If you love what you do, you never work a day.
I'm so about it. I really enjoy it.
Yep. Yeah, and I think that's something that you also excel too. If you like what you do, if you like wholesale real estate, and you like the helping people out their properties, and you like meeting new people, and you like crushing deals, and you're never going to work a day in your life, for sure.
Facts.
100%. And again, if you follow my process, and if you follow or anyone else's process, and you stick to your guns, it's gonna work out eventually.
If you pick one process and actually stick, because there are a bunch of different processes that
so
work.
many people.
If you just stick with one and just rock it and don't deviate, you'll have success. So you just believe in yourself and don't give up.
100%. Especially if you start out belly to belly.
Belly to belly is where it's at. I really believe it too.
Yeah, and a lot of people tell you otherwise. Well, it's not cool because it's not virtual, or it's it's not as easy or whatever. But
I want to get a cheap cost per lead, blah blah blah. It's so dorky.
Yeah, but I mean, if you look at it even from the cost per lead standpoint, I mean, we're squeezing out bigger spreads than they normally are, and we're in better markets, because a lot of those guys are in markets where it's I don't know, they're making 10, 15 grand. Philadelphia markets, but even where, let's just pick Kentucky or something. It's an area where the property values are, not to shit on Kentucky. If Kentucky's worth a lot more money, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we don't know.
My bad. I'm just an East Coast guy from Pennsylvania. I don't know anything about Kentucky, but just to pick a random, center America state, it's not as much value out there,
No.
And Pennsylvania has a perfect combination between, obviously, value and motivation, and I think it's a great market to be in, especially belly to belly. So,
Facts.
For sure. And if at any point in time I can help anyone else make some money, I gladly will.
Heck yeah.
Sure.
If y'all have any questions about Harrison, you reach out to him, right? He'll talk to you. He'll help you out.
For sure. For sure.
Harrison, my guy, thank
pleasure.
you so much for coming on. I love talking to you, bro.
You as well, man. I'm going to do this again. So at some point in time when I have the business back up and running, maybe I'm doing $5 million a year, I'll come back over here.
Dude, next year you're going to come back on. Next year you're doing $5 million, you bring your P&L.
Yeah.
Baby, he brought his P&L with him, and he brought me a gift. It's a good guess. How correct is that? Yeah, that's cool.
Got to prove my worth,
Dang right.
And we know what we're talking about. You got to show it. So
yeah, I appreciate you with time. All right, everybody, happy hunting.
See you guys.